Welcome to Calf Academy, your source for calf care education.
This module is entitled Medicated and Non-Medicated Feed Additives. In this module, we'll be discussing medicated and non-medicated additives for calf milk replacers. An overview of the topics in this discussion are the goals and criteria for feed additives, and then an overview of specific feed additives. Specific examples of feed additives that will be discussed today are spray-dried plasma, egg yolk antibodies, moss or Mannan Oligosaccharide, essential oils or botanicals, DFMs, which are direct-fed microbials, and fatty acid supplements, as well as prebiotics. Enteric or gut health is the result of a battle between good bugs or beneficial microflora versus bad bugs. Good bugs are microbes which aid in digestion or other biological processes. Other words for good microflora or good bugs are probiotics, beneficial microflora, beneficial bacteria, or DFMs, direct-fed microbials. Examples of bad bugs that are also in the small intestine are microbes that cause diseases, or pathogens as they're also called. They come in the form of bacteria, viruses, or protozoa. Many disease-causing pathogens are already present in the environment or the digestive system of the calf. The purpose of feed additives in milk replacers is to keep those pathogens controlled or from establishing themselves in the small intestine. An indication of which pathogens are causing the problems in our calf, are causing the calves to be sick, is when the calf actually gets sick. For in the case of scours, if the calf gets scours between day 0 and day 7, that is often due to E. coli rotavirus or coronavirus. Later in the calf's life, the onset of scours is indicative of coronavirus or cryptosporidia or Clostridium perfringens type C or Salmonella. Respiratory pathogens which cause disease in calves in the bacteria category are Pasteurella, Mycoplasma, Pasteurella multocida, Pasteurella hemolytica, or the shipping fever complex. Viruses which cause respiratory disease in calves are infectious bovine rhinotracheitis, which is IBR, influenza, or also called PI3, BVD, bovine viral diarrhea, or BRSV, bovine respiratory syncytial virus. When adding feed additives, there are two goals. One is to eliminate the pathogens. The second would be to enhance the good bugs, or feed the good bugs, or populate the good bugs. Examples of feed additives that kill the bad bugs are first, the medicated feed additives, which would be antibiotics. One thing to keep in mind when feeding the calf antibiotics is that antibiotics also affect the good bugs or the microflora population. One should consider, when they treat with antibiotics, recolonizing with good bugs, and we'll discover how to do that later in the presentation. Examples of antibiotics that are added to milk replacers are neomycin, oxytetracycline, lasallicid, which is also known as Bovatec, dequinate, which is also known as Decox. When using these, one must consider the two goals. One is an ionophore goal, which is to shift the microflora in the gut to a more productive population of microflora, versus disease control, which is feeding it at a higher level where you actually eliminate pathogens that cause disease. Another example would be chlorotetracycline, which is CTC. A non-medicated feed additive that also kills bad bugs is moss. Moss is a yeast derivative, also known as Mannan Oligosaccharide. Brand names of moss available are Biomoss, Betamoss, Safmannan, Agromoss, and there's multiple others. Another yeast derivative that is added to milk replacers are immune boosters, such as beta-glucan. It is derived as a byproduct of yeast, just like moss is, and it has a direct effect modulating the immune system of the calf. Other feed additives, non-medicated, that have a direct effect on the pathogen load in the small intestine are antibodies. Antibodies can come from three sources: plasma, egg, and colostrum. Another non-medicated feed additive that has a direct effect on pathogens in the calf is essential oils or botanicals or plant extracts. Feed additives which repopulate the microflora, actually put the beneficial bacteria into the small intestine. These are also known as direct-fed microbials or probiotics. Examples of the species or strains of beneficial bacteria or probiotics are lactobacillus, Bacillus subtilis, Enterococcus faecium. Another feed additive which would benefit the calf are products that feed the good bugs or enhance the good bugs or the microflora. These are known as prebiotics. So probiotics are the good bugs themselves. Prebiotics are feed for the good bugs, is one way to look at it. Examples of prebiotics are fructo oligosaccharide, or FOS, which is a byproduct of the sugarcane industry, inulin, dextrose, or butyrate. When choosing which supplements to add to a calf milk replacer or to feed to the calf directly, you need to choose wisely. There's a whole plethora of strains, brand names of all the different feed additives, and all of them can show benefit to the calf, but one must consider the cost to benefit ratio. When judging which feed additives to use, one must consider the cost versus benefit ratio. One must also consider the redundancy. You don't want to add 3 things that are having a similar biological effect on the calf. The other thing besides cost versus benefit, and which is the main criteria, is proof. Is there research? Is there controlled research studies using this feed additive, looking at the difference between it and calves which do not receive that feed additive? Or field experience. Has it been widely used across the industry with good results? And lastly, the ease of use. Does it change the nature of our milk replacer? Does it complicate our feeding system? Does it cause other problems? One must consider all 3 of these, but the most important criteria is the cost versus benefit ratio. Plasma is widely used in calf milk replacers, mainly out west. It is known that 1/3 of the milk replacers made in America contain plasma. Therefore, there has been widespread long-term use of this product with noted benefits and limited problems. Nationwide use tends to be skewed in the West, where they receive calves on large calf ranches from unknown colostrum status in a fairly stressful environment, and they've seen benefits by having plasma in the milk replacer or fed directly to the calves. There's been health benefits and significant cost savings due to increased production and feed efficiency. When considering plasma as an additive to calf milk replacers, it should be noted that it's a viable source of milk replacer protein. In fact, it's considered a viable alternative protein source for calves. Plasma has a similar amino acid composition to milk proteins and therefore is readily digestible by the calf. It will not change color of the calf milk replacer or the aroma or the solubility. It is also important to note that the effect we're looking for, the physiological effect we're looking for by adding plasma to our milk replacer, is an antibody effect. Antibodies are proteins and are sensitive to temperature. Therefore, if you have plasma in your milk replacer, you should not mix it with water greater than 150 degrees centigrade, or that will have a detrimental effect on the antibody benefit of the calf milk replacer with plasma in it. Plasma by nature is 78% crude protein, 0.3% fat, low fiber, and about 8.5% ash. Calf mortality studies with plasma have demonstrated in over 20 studies across 2,300 calves look at the effect of plasma on calf mortality, have demonstrated an average reduction in calf mortality of 7% versus those calves receiving a milk replacer without plasma. In disease challenge studies with plasma, when calves are challenged with cryptosporidiosis, there's a 33% decrease in scours and a 30% improvement in gut mucosal development or gut repair in calves that received milk replacer with plasma versus those that did not. When challenged with E. coli, there's decreased mortality and improved average daily gain in calves receiving plasma compared to those that did not. And when challenged with coronavirus, research indicates improved feed intake and hydration in calves receiving milk replacer with plasma in it. Calf performance studies with plasma have demonstrated comparing calves receiving milk replacer with plasma versus all milk replacer. In over 30 trials with plasma, serum, or a combination thereof, improvements observed in calves receiving the plasma milk replacer showed increased average daily gain, reduction in scours, improved starter intake, and fewer antibiotic treatments. A cross-research study, the general conclusion is that plasma in calf milk replacer performs as well as all milk, and often better when one looks at the health parameters. Another source of antibodies for calf milk replacers are egg yolk antibodies, or IgY. To obtain these products, this antibody source requires that donor hens be vaccinated for calf diseases, E. coli, salmonella, coronavirus, rotavirus, and the hen transfer the entire antibody load, immunoglobulin Y, or IgY, into the egg yolks. The egg yolks will contain a concentration per egg from 50 to 100 milligrams of globulin protein. This is a visual of the process for obtaining IgY, or egg yolk antibodies. As stated, the donor hens are vaccinated for the calf hood diseases discussed earlier in the presentation. They shed these antibodies in their eggs. The egg is made into a spray-dried powder, which is added to the calf milk replacer and fed to the calf. This is a visual of the effect of antibodies, in this case IgY, but it's the same process is true for antibodies from colostrum itself or from plasma. You have the developing small intestine villi pictured here. The villi is the absorptive pili that are on the small intestine, and in the early stages of development, these are under development. The pili are covered with a mucosal layer, which forms the absorptive surface of the small intestine and is vital to the development of the calf's digestive system. Early in its development, if pathogens attach at this developing mucosal layer, it causes damage that is irreparable and will permanently decrease the absorptive capacity of that area of the small intestine. Severe infection at this stage can be a detriment to the future production of this calf. If the antibodies are present in the small intestine lumen, they can bind these pathogens before they attach at the mucosal layer. And then the pathogens will be removed from the digestive system before they have their detrimental effect on the absorptive surface of the developing small intestine. That's how egg yolk antibodies work, and that's how antibodies in general work in the small intestine of the calf and have the health benefits that we observe. MOS, Mannan Oligosaccharide. MOS is derived from the cell wall of yeast. The technical name for yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. The yeast is broken down with a proteolytic enzyme, and one of the resulting byproducts is MOS, Mannan Oligosaccharide. Mannan is a sugar recognized by certain bacteria, including strains of E. coli and salmonella. They attach to it as an energy source. However, the oligosaccharide form, the mannan is not available for the pathogen to use as energy and to grow. When MOS is fed to calves, the pathogens are tricked into attaching to the mannan sugar instead of the intestinal villi, as discussed in a previous slide. Pathogens are then flushed out with the manure, preventing the attachment and permanent damage to the villi. They act much like an antibody, however they attach at a nutritive site on the pathogen rather than an immunological site where the antibodies attach. This is basically a visual of the antibodies from IgY, plasma, or colostrum, the MOS, and then the population of good bacteria having a beneficial effect of keeping the pathogens from attaching at the small intestine. By enhancing the good bugs, feeding the good bugs, and populating the good bugs, we're keeping by competitive exclusion and creating an environment that's conducive to a good bacteria growth and detrimental to pathogen growth, benefits the calf by keeping the pathogens in low population in this developing small intestine. When MOS is fed to calf, there are multiple trials showing the benefits of MOS in calves. Published calf trials demonstrate reduced scours, increased starter intake, increased average daily gain, and then older studies show no effect. In non-published calf data or experience use, Moss-fed to calves increases starter intake. It has gain on par with milk replacers with antibiotic in them, and decreased fecal coliforms, decreased respiratory disease, and show increased gain across multiple studies. Another non-medicated feed additive are the essential oils. Essential oils are also called plant extracts or botanicals. These are used in general to improve animal productivity and efficiency. Their negative effect or their direct effect on disease-causing pathogens qualify these to be considered as an alternative feeding strategy to replace antibiotics, without risk to animals, consumers, or the environment. Additionally, in the face of the veterinary feed directive limiting the use of antibiotics in calf milk replacers, these products are considered as an antibiotic alternative that is not as restricted by regulation. Essential oils, or botanicals, are generally recognized as safe by the American Feed Ingredient Association. Essential oils, examples of essential oils or botanicals are byproducts of cinnamon, byproducts of oregano, and byproducts of the chili pepper. Oregano, the active ingredient in oregano, is called carvacol. Carvacol has a direct effect on promoting cellulitic or digestively beneficial microflora and elevating the concentration of butyric acid. Butyric acid has an effect on increasing the growth of lactobacillus, which we discussed earlier is a beneficial digestive microflora, and it decreases the growth of multiple disease-causing pathogens such as E. coli, Clostridia, and Salmonella. Lactobacillus decreases the growth of those disease-causing organisms, as well as a direct effect of the butyric acid itself, which is enhanced by the carvacol. So if you look at the effect of a combination of carvacol, which is the active ingredient of oregano extract, it improves the beneficial microflora development, it decreases pathogenic bacteria, and it decreases the required maintenance of the calf or increases its feed efficiency. The extract of cinnamon, or cinnamaldehyde, has a direct effect on gut mucosal development. It increases gut mucosal development of the absorptive surface of the developing small intestine. This increases absorption and feed efficiency and has economic benefits. If one looks at the extract of the chili pepper, the active ingredient called capsaicin, this stimulates enzyme activity. It increases nutrient digestion, and it increases energy extraction, or the energy value of the feed, having economic benefits. The combination of these decrease pathogenic bacteria by direct effect, increase microflora development, improve mucosal development at the small intestine, and increase nutrient digestion and feed efficiency, causing a synergistic effect of the combination of these three essential oils, resulting in a synergistic effect of these three essential oils. Another way to benefit the good microflora in the gut by feed additive is to feed the good bacteria themselves, or feed live beneficial microorganisms to the calf. These are called direct-fed microbials when they're fed this way. The effect of direct-fed microbials is to supply more good bugs to the small intestine. Additionally, the good bugs, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactobacillus casei, Enterococcus faecium, and Bacillus licheniformis, all have the competitive advantage of producing lactic acid. Lactic acid lowers the pH in the small intestine, which is beneficial to good bacteria and detrimental to pathogens or disease-causing bacteria. Also, if you populate the small intestine with good bacteria, just by competitive exclusion alone, the pathogens are kept at a minimum. When feeding good bacteria to calves, the newer research shows benefits. The older research shows no improvement by feeding good bacteria. Direct-fed microbials when fed to calves, if one looks at the research studies looking at the benefits of feeding direct-fed microbials, DFMs, or probiotics to calves, older research shows no advantage of feeding direct-fed microbials to calves. Newer research shows benefits of increased average daily gain, increased starter intake, and reduction in diseases. The reason newer research shows benefits that older research does not is that more beneficial strains have been discovered since the older research was done, as well as higher bacterial count products are being tested and used. When selecting a DFM product to feed, the considerations are it needs to be a high bacteria count. At least 1 billion colony-forming units need to be fed to the calf daily. It needs to be durable bacteria, durable microflora that are tolerant of shifts in pH as well as temperature. They need to be resistant to commonly used antibiotics. There needs to be multiple strains of bacteria or broad spectrum of bacteria in the product for the synergistic effect. And it needs to be a reputable product and a calf-focused supplier. If the majority of their data comes from the effects on ruminant or adult cattle or other species, such as poultry, this should be considered when comparing it to a product where the majority of their data comes from calf performance studies. It should not be excessively expensive. It's a competitive industry and should not add a great deal of cost to our milk replacer or to our feeding program. And these are used to reestablish gut microflora. Therefore, if the animal encounters stress, antibiotic treatment, or something that would decolonize the gut, the purpose of this is to reestablish the good microflora in the gut and competitively exclude the pathogens and create an environment where good bacteria thrive and pathogens do not. Another feed additive commonly added to milk replacers is Neotec 4. Neotec 4 is a combination of 3 things. It has essential omega-3 fatty acids in it. It has medium-chain fatty acids from coconut and palm kernel. And it has butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid. An average of 5 studies demonstrated when Neotec 4 is added to calf milk replacer, there's a reduction in scours, increased average daily gain, increase in frame size, and increase in feed efficiency. This is because butyrate has a direct effect on good bacteria in the gut, good bacteria establishment in the gut, as discussed earlier in the presentation. FOS, or fructo oligosaccharide, is a beneficial feed additive because it has a prebiotic effect. As you remember, prebiotics are products that feed the good bugs or feed the good microflora. FOS is a sugar that is not broken down until it reaches the hindgut or the small intestine. And research has proven that FOS enhances beneficial bacteria. Also, FOS decreases E. coli and Clostridia development, which are disease-causing pathogens. It increases gain and energy metabolism in veal calves and is widely used in calf supplements. This concludes the medicated and non-medicated feed additive module.
Thank you for completing this Calf Academy course. If you have follow-up questions, please contact your Milk Products National Account Manager